Today we're looking at some NHL trade rumors focusing on teams like the Vancouver Canucks, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the LA Kings, the Arizona Coyotes, plus the future of Johnny Gaudreau. The newly eliminated Calgary Flames have a big decision and a pivotal offseason on their hands, which starts with their top offensive player. Will he remain with the Flames, or where could he end up? Plus, we have some other key updates here from the playoffs. We'll recap last night's action and look at some injuries and tonight's games as well. All that and more coming up next. Well, welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of NHL news and rumors here today. We're going to talk about the playoffs a little bit. But before we jump into any of that, I have a couple quick things I do want to touch on. A couple of other subjects here. First up, some sad news out of Vancouver. We just want to wish our thoughts and prayers to the Brock Boeser family. Brock, unfortunately, lost his dad at the young age of 61. Duke Boeser certainly gained a lot of attention for being quite the warrior over the last number of years. We know Brock's very close with his dad, and I'm sure this is an incredibly sad day for him and his family. So certainly want to express our condolences to his siblings and Duke's wife. Duke Boeser is he's gone through a lot in the last 12 years. He's battled Parkinson's disease. He ended up in an accident and suffered a brain injury. He had onset dementia, which Boeser's recently talked about publicly, which was something, very emotional that, kind of got him worked up at the end of season there. And we know Brock Boeser's dad also has battled lung cancer, which I know ended up spreading, and it's just, he's gone through an awful lot, and he was a real battler and a real warrior. And unfortunately, I saw a news from Brock Boeser's mom had posted on social media yesterday, I think it was, saying that he was taking his last lap around the rink and time was coming to an end. So certainly some sad news there. As much as you would have liked to see the Canucks make the playoffs and all that, I'm sure Canucks fans can appreciate that Brock Boeser probably really, appreciated having some time just to go home and just be a son. So we'd certainly like to extend our condolences to Brock and his family. And in some other news, I just want to take a moment as well and wish a big happy birthday to a young hockey fan who's become an inspiration to many on social media. A big fan of the Oilers and has created quite a connection with the Oilers. And if you're an Oilers fan, or if you follow them along, or at least been watching on social media like me, I'm sure that you're familiar with them. But Ben Skelliter turns 6 years old today. I've been following along with Ben's journey of, obviously, he's gone through a lot battling cancer, and obviously I'll put up his dad's Twitter account here if you want to be able to familiarize yourself with him if you're not already. But Ben has had quite a journey. He's become quite an inspiration to the Oilers. He's had a chance to meet and become friends with like McDavid and Draisaitl. And he's basically become their little buddy, and he's just obviously been quite an inspiration for the team. And I know as a dad myself, watching him go through what he's been dealing with is certainly, like I said, it's just an inspiration to see. I'm glad to see that his Oilers were able to pull out a big victory for him last night, so he could start his birthday today with a real positive note. So he's just a real young, inspirational young man, a little warrior that I just wanted to wish a happy birthday to. I know he probably won't see this, but if you're not familiar with that situation, that story, it's just a good follow. It's just quite an inspirational family, what they've been dealing with, and I'd like to extend a big happy birthday to little Ben there on this special day. Now, of course, last night, like I said, we saw some big playoff games last night. The Canes, again, won at home 3-1 over the Rangers to take a 3-2 series lead. So again, that narrative does not change. The Canes continue to win at home. The Rangers really didn't play overly well. Their top players didn't produce much of anything. And the Canes, again, take the lead in the series. So can somebody break the narrative here? And can the Canes either win on the road to wrap it up in 6, or can the Rangers end up, continuing the trend here, win at home, and then maybe take it in 7? I'm not sure. Right now, the Lightning are kind of sitting back, just watching them play. They're going to have about a week off between games, get rested and healed up, which is only going to help them. And I think either of these teams are going to have quite a battle on their hands and have a tough series against the Lightning, and whoever survives this one. Right now, you'd have to give the edge to the Hurricanes just based on the fact that how things have gone, that the home team has won every game and they have home ice advantage. And of course, the Battle of Alberta came to a close last night with the Oilers winning in overtime, fitting that Connor McDavid scores the big goal, 5-4 victory for a 4-1 series victory. It was quite a game. The game in the first period was a little bit different. We saw Mike Smith being a little bit more cautious in the net, not coming out and playing the puck as much as usual. It's 1-0 Calgary after one. Certainly some good play, but it wasn't like we've seen in other games with the quick starts. But the second period, things just exploded. And I think the goalies and the defense just kind of took a pause or something, and we saw 4 goals in 1:11. That's a playoff record. It was insane, the back and forthness. And after 2 periods, we had a 4-4 hockey game. It was just electric. It was one of the best periods of hockey I've ever seen. If you really like to watch offense and just goal after goal, that was a real awesome period to see. I'm sure from a coaching perspective and stuff, and the goalies, they probably weren't having as much fun. But it was quite the game. Of course, third period, the Flames think they won. I know Flames fans are probably pissed about this, and I do think they have reason to be. I think there was like 4 to 5 minutes left in the game. Blake Coleman feels he scored. The puck definitely went into net. But of course, he was driving to the net, kind of had the brakes on a bit. It did go off his skate and in. They called it a distinct kicking motion, so the goal was nullified, and they carried on the play, which of course the Oilers go on to win in overtime. Now, if you look at the play and watch it, I don't know. I think a lot of people today are scratching their heads saying they don't really understand what a distinct kicking motion is. Now, listening to a lot of different opinions on this, I've watched this play I don't know how many times today and last night, just kind of reviewing it, trying to form my own opinion while listening to what other people were saying on it. And like a lot of the media, like listening to like the former players that are in the media, like I know on Sportsnet you see like Kevin Bieksa, Jennifer Gaudreau. I've seen Mark Mathot talking about it on social media, other guys as well. And a lot of them agreed that it was a kicking motion. They said that Coleman definitely knew what he was doing. And yes, he was stopping, but you could see his foot, to me, kind of does, I guess it's slight. See, and the problem here isn't so much that it's kicked in to me, because I do think, in looking at it, I was like, okay, I can see how they came to the conclusion that it was kicked. It was slight, but in my opinion it was. But the problem here is how they've called other similar plays over, well, not just even the past year, even beyond that. But looking back over the course of this current season, through the regular season and stuff, like there's a number of goals that I've seen this year that to me were more egregious with a kicking motion that were allowed to stand up as a goal. So it's the inconsistency that bothers me. That's the part that gets me. However, I hope Flames fans are not too hung up on this, because to be honest and to be fair, this was a bit of a beatdown. The Flames could not hold a lead. They had numerous points in this series where they had multiple goal leads. The Oilers always came back, and they won the last 4 games. Jacob Markstrom, I don't know if he's dealing with an injury. We'll see here after the next day or two when they likely speak to the media, do their end of season kind of locker clean out day and talk for the last time, if they reveal anything. But in the Dallas series, he was excellent. And in the Oilers series, he was not. So, like I said, I don't know if there's an injury there that's impacting things, or it's just somehow he lost part of his game. I don't know how to explain it. But it's like Jekyll and Hyde. But, like I said, it's not all on Markstrom. I know Daryl Sutter post-game, he wouldn't criticize him. And really, he's a big part of the reason they were even there. But, Johnny Gaudreau, Matthew Tkachuk had an awesome first game. They were quieter after that. I know Gaudreau did put up a few points, and he scored in Game 5. Tkachuk was a lot more quiet. I think he only had 1 assist after Game 1. So they're looking what McDavid and Draisaitl did compared to Gaudreau and Tkachuk, and it's just completely night and day. It's just that simple. The Chris Tanev injury, I think, played a big role. He was nowhere near 100%, and he was out there, and he's obviously their best defensive defenseman at slowing down the rush, especially. And he couldn't play to his normal capabilities. He did play the last couple of games, but you could probably argue he probably shouldn't have been, but he's trying to be a warrior and play through it. And of course, we did learn afterwards that he's dealing with a torn labrum, separated shoulder, and sprained neck. He's going to be having surgery probably sometime next week, and is looking at a major big recovery. I don't know if he'll even be ready to start next season. It could be that big. We'll have to wait and see more on that. But certainly some uncertain times, which we're going to talk about a little bit in this video as well. But you know what? I don't know. The Flames, They had a real good team. They had a real solid regular season. There's lots to like there. But unfortunately, the Oilers team were just more of the McDavid willing himself to the victory. Just like we've seen in Tampa. It's just that will and that push. Like really game one, the Flames had a quick start. The Oilers did respond, ended up 9-6, which was crazy, an insane game. Game two started the same way with the Flames, kind of start off another quick start. And then McDavid was just like, okay, that's it, enough of this crap. And he just took over. It's just that simple. And they never responded with, like their big guys could not come close to outplaying the Oilers' big guys. Mike Smith wasn't awesome, but he certainly did outplay Markstrom, at least by a fair margin. And it's just crazy. So to me, the Oilers deserved to win. They were by far the better team. So as much as that goal was confusing last night, I don't think we should be too hung up on it because I don't know that it would have made the end-all be-all difference in this series. So anyways, we will see. We'll never know, of course, if it would have been called a goal, how things would have went. I would just like to see consistency with the NHL because to me, I've seen lots of other plays this year that if that was no goal, they should have been no goals too. And it's hard. They're going to have to rewrite the wording or something. I don't know what they're going to do. But anyways, that is that. So moving on to another injury we learned about. Torrey Krug officially has been ruled out for the remainder of the Avs Blues series. He had been making some progress, and there was some hope, I guess, that he might be able to get back and play. And he still might if they survive the series and go on to the West Final against the Oilers. But for right now in the Avalanche series, if they're able to extend it beyond Game 6 or into Game 7, he is not going to be available. So that's certainly not good news for the St. Louis Blues on that front. Now on to the rumor section of today's video. Now the future of Johnny Gaudreau. Hot topic today. Lots of media outlets talking about this now that the Flame season is over. This is going to be a pivotal, monumental offseason in my opinion for the Flames. They had an awesome regular season. A good run here. They won a playoff round for the first time in a long time. Lost to a hot Oilers team in round 2. And that's progress. That's good. But keeping the band together to have another go at this next year is going to be uber challenging. You've got Gaudreau, UFA. You've got Tkachuk needs a contract. Mangiapane needs a contract. There's your 3 top... Oh, they get Lindholm under contract a little bit longer. But 3 of your top 4 offensive weapons are needing deals. And there's not likely going to be enough cap space to go around. Gaudreau and Tkachuk are probably going to be able to command $9 million or more. And then you've got the situation with Mangiapane that if they get paid, if they do end up staying, he's probably gone. And then you're losing 30-plus goals on your lineup. So it's either way, it's a tough decision here on what they do. But certainly I came across an article from Isles Hockey Now talking about the New York Islanders' perspective on this. And they say that they have sources that if Johnny Gaudreau does hit free agency and things don't work out in Calgary, and it is his intent, from what they were told, to try to swing a deal to stay. I don't think anybody at this point can say with certainty that he's definitely gone from Calgary. I think there's definitely going to be meaningful discussions and negotiations. Whether or not it works out, it's hard to say. And then they said that if it doesn't work out and he moves on to free agency, that his first call would be Lamoriello and the Islanders. Now, I will have to wait and see on that, but it is probably very fair to say that part of the country, the Northeast, or in the New York area, or below, where he's from, New Jersey, Philly, I think the Islanders, Devils, and Flyers would be the 3 teams that you would probably expect that are based on where they're at with their cap space or where the team is at. I would expect to make a play for it. Now the Devils have the most space. The Devils or the Islanders and the Flyers would have to do some work to create some more space, but I think they're in the situation where they'd be likely working on that anyway. So we'll see what happens, but I don't know. I mean, at this point, considering how long the negotiations have drug on with Gaudreau, you have to think that it's not a given that he stays. And if Johnny Gaudreau happens to leave via free agency, if they can't get this done, you have to wonder what happens next with Matthew Tkachuk. Obviously that's going to mean more money available to pay him, so it shouldn't be an issue that way. But is he going to now have concerns on the direction of the team? Because he's in a situation that he could accept his qualifying offer. He's 1 year from being an unrestricted free agent. So he's qualified this year as an RFA. I think the qualifying offer, it's quite high. It's like $9.5, $10 million or whatever it is. If he decides just to accept his qualifying offer and not negotiate, to say, I'll take the 1 year qualifying offer, that walks him right to being an unrestricted free agent. And they could be in the same predicament next year if they can't get a contract done. So not to say that it's going to happen, but these players have all the negotiating power here. So it's just hard to say. They're in a tough spot, and they could take a major step back if things don't go the way they want it to go. So the future of Johnny Gaudreau is very much up in the air. I don't think we can say with any certainty that he's leaving, but if he does, I think we can look to the Northeast and the Eastern Conference, and the three teams I mentioned are the most likely to be able to try to swing a deal. Of course, in Philly, he's got one of his best buddies in Kevin Hayes. You know, he's from that area, the Devils, Flyers area would be like home. The Islanders wouldn't be too far, so it makes a lot of sense, but we'll see what the Flames do. I don't think it's anywhere near the point, like I said, that we can say it's a done deal that he's leaving. When it comes to the Penguins, there's reports on Ron Hextall's plans here. Obviously, they're going to try to work on getting Malkin and Letang under contract. Many still feel that it's 50-50, that there's a good chance one of them at least leaves, but we'll see. When it comes to Kasperi Kapanen, though, or Danton Heinen, the two RFAs on the team, there is belief that one or both could be moved. They might get qualifying offers, but at the same time, it wouldn't be surprising to see them trade Kapanen, especially. The inconsistency has been bothersome by the team. They were hoping he'd take a big step after they reacquired him from the Maple Leafs a couple years back, and he hasn't really done that. Like, he's had his moments. He's a decent player, but he's not at the point where they thought he would be, and he very well could be a trade piece too. And the Penguins are going to be in a situation trying to keep their top, franchise stars here, that they might need to clear some space, and he could very well be a victim of that. And time will tell. I know on to the Canucks, though. The Canucks are also linked to a Penguins player, and that's defenseman John Marino. Obviously, Jim Rutherford, the president of the Canucks, along with Patrick Alvin, both came from the Penguins organization and are very familiar with a lot of their players, given how long they worked there. Obviously, there's reports again that Marino is a player that the Canucks would be very much interested in on the blue line. Of course, we know, like I said, the Penguins are in a tough cap spot, trying to figure out ways to keep Malkin, Letang, etc. Brian Rust, there's reports they want to bring back Fleury, and there's also reports that they're very likely to trade at least one defenseman to kind of shake things up and create a little bit of space. So the original reports were it's more likely to be a guy like either Dumoulin or Pettersson, with Pettersson probably being the preferred guy, but obviously Dumoulin might have more value, but the reports are now that Marino might be like option 3, depending on what's out there for trades, because Rutherford might come calling. He's been a fan of Marino for some time, so certainly take a look at the possibility of those two teams hooking up on a potential trade. What Hextall does, right? I mean, just a connection there that we could see. I know when it comes to the Canucks, Rutherford was on the Donnie and Daly show here again and talking about some of their potential plans and what they're looking at. That's why a lot of people think that Miller's going to be the traded player here to create the space and get a good haul of futures back. When he was asked about a few players, when his remarks on Miller was to talk a contract extension and see if they can work things out. And if it doesn't work out, they may have to make some tough decisions. When he was asked about a contract extension for Bo Horvat, his response was that they really like Bo. He's liked Bo since his junior days. They've had discussions that were good after the season, and they believe he should be a big part of the team moving forward. So it's completely different language and lingo. So it does sound like they're more apt to sign Horvat and to trade Miller. But of course, a lot of that depends on the contract negotiations and what Miller's looking for. But he said it looks like that with any player. If the money is just not going to work for the team, they have to move on, because they have to create a way here to get some cap flexibility with this team, or they can't really bring in any players, change things up, which is necessary to take steps forward. So I know Miller would be a player who's going to gain a ton of interest on a lot of teams, including Pittsburgh, who we just talked about, amongst others. So we'll see what happens. But based on the Canucks president comments, it does sound like, again, Miller's more likely to be moved if they're going to be making a trade to create some space. And the other article I came across today as well, which was interesting, was we know that Jacob Chychrun is very likely to be traded from the Coyotes this year. And we did talk yesterday about a potential trade that was in a Sportsnet article involving the Leafs and the Coyotes, sending Chychrun and Lawson Krause to the Leafs for Nylander and Timothy Liljegren. But now there's obviously another team that's going to be a big player this offseason for potentially a D-man or a scoring forward will be the LA Kings. And they have a ton of prospects. And the article suggested that the Kings might be ready to part with Quinton Byfield, the former number 2 overall pick, if it means getting Chychrun. Now, they might be able to give up a little bit less as far as number of assets go to get Chychrun because of the quality and value of Byfield. I'm not entirely convinced that's the case. but the article suggests that that could be something that they're being discussed. Now, it's not a surprise to hear Chychrun being linked to the Kings. This is something that's come up numerous times before. Obviously, he's a real, good, solid defenseman who can play both sides. The contract is good. LA's rumored to be wanting to add another solid D-man to kind of make that D-core even better. They do have some good young D to mix in with some vets there. It's kind of becoming a pretty good, strong suit of their team. So it's not a surprise to see that link again. It was surprising to see Byfield's name be mentioned, but they have so many prospects. There's so many guys there that can't all play in the Kings organization. I would not be shocked to see the LA Kings make a run for a guy like Chychrun, or if they do want to go for a top scoring forward, because there is belief that that's on their radar as well. At least one of the two happen this offseason. And if it's not Byfield, it could be guys like Turcotte or Thomas or Fagemo, or, the list goes on here. Dudas, that there's so many guys in that organization that look to be quality players that are just not going to have a spot in the Kings lineup. So we'll see what happens here, but don't be shocked if you see maybe a possibility of them moving the former highly touted draft pick, if it's going to land them a couple of pieces to really take their team forward into the playoffs and beyond the next few years. With all the other moves they've made, it's hard to see how Byfield is going to take a long time to really have him playing high up in the lineup. But that's quite a risk on their part as well, because he could be a real solid franchise centerman down the road if they trade him a little bit too early in his career. So let me know your thoughts on what we discussed today down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.